Well, hey everyone, it's Marty Bodie here and welcome back to the channel. If you follow my channel, you know that recently, I guess about 7 weeks ago now, I switched from Indian back to Harley Davidson. If you follow my channel, you also know that I love both brands. You can't go wrong with either one. And I currently am on a Harley, as one of my friends slash family members said. I went back to the dark side. And of course, when you buy a motorcycle, you want to make it your own, you want to add things to it. The first thing I added was the taller windshield, and the second thing I have added was what Harley Davidson calls the tour pack. Everyone else calls it a trunk, but they call it the tour pack. And I got an aftermarket one. Oh, the company name, let's see. Company name, I keep forgetting. There's another Amazon internet kind of company that sells knockoff tour packs as well, but this one was TCT-MOTORPARTS, and MOTORPARTS is all written together. So I call it a knockoff. It's aftermarket. The setup I have here would be nearly $2,000 with Harley Davidson tour pack, and I gave a little over $300 for the setup. So it came with the rack underneath here that the trunk mounts to. I got the chrome latches, hinges, because I went with the black and chrome motorcycle. It looks like to me it's a perfect color match. The plastic, the composites on the plastic, it seemed comparable to the Harley brand. Came with the backrest, came with the liner, and this one also has a metal plate underneath the liner. Now, one thing I wasn't sure about and couldn't find any directions was whether the metal plate should go underneath the trunk or inside the trunk. I put it inside the trunk. Comment down below if you bought an aftermarket trunk with the metal plate. So it's inside the trunk underneath the liner. As I said, if I bought all this with Harley, all those pieces would have been separate. The quick release rack, the tour pack, the backrest. Oh, and it came with a luggage rack. I didn't put the luggage rack on. I don't know if I will. Had numerous touring bikes with luggage racks, and I think only twice I can remember putting anything on the luggage rack. When I went to Colorado a couple years ago, I brought an extra helmet, had it attached to the luggage rack, and many years ago had a Gold Wing, was camping, and I had one of those little small lawn chairs on my luggage rack, but that was the only time I ever remember using it. I think it looks sleeker without the luggage rack. Now, I was a little concerned about the look because the 2024 model, the fairing has been redesigned. I mean, it's still, you can tell it's the iconic Batwing, but it's been redesigned enough that it gave it a sleeker look. So I was afraid that, okay, the fairing may look smaller than the previous. I don't know if it is, but it does look smaller. And then I went with the King tour pack, so I thought it might look lopsided, but actually I think with my tall windshield it balances out okay. Now, the chopped tour pack would have looked much better without a doubt, but I tend to go for function over fashion. I mean, I could have went with a shorter windshield, would have looked better, but again, function, wind protection, luggage capacity with the King tour pack. Plus, a lot of the chopped ones have the little small backrest pad. My wife's already ridden on the back. 2 of my children have already been on the back, and you just get way more comfort with the King tour pack. And now, it does not have the rear speakers, which would fill in some of this gap. There's a significant gap in here, but this is the stock seat. I think the very next thing I'm going to purchase, and I may go ahead and order it Friday, is a touring seat. And because they reshaped the gas tank and I don't know what else under there, previous generation seats do not fit on this bike. So I'm very limited. I think Mustang, Saddleman, Harley, I think they're some of the only few right now that are offering a seat that'll fit. But I said, I think I'm gonna go ahead and Friday order the touring seat, the Sundowner, which will fill in more of this area, plus provide more comfort when my wife rides or the kids. Overall, I'm very happy with the bike. I went with black partly because I like black. Now they charge an extra $600 for black. The gray is the base color. But when you go to buying trunk, or if anyone ever comes out with any lower fairings for the front, when you buy those in black, it's way cheaper, because any of the other ones, they consider it color matched, and it's just way more expensive. Like I said, I paid a little over $300 for this setup, where it had been nearly $2,000 with Harley. I did have a shipping issue. I had a shipping issue, and it was not the seller's fault. I want to make that clear. It was not the seller's fault. My family and I, 11 months ago, moved from Texas to the beautiful state of North Carolina. So I ordered the trunk through Amazon. I changed my billing address. Apparently, I did not change the shipping address. So where does it get shipped to? It gets shipped to Texas. I'm a Methodist pastor, live in a parsonage. There's a Methodist preacher living in the parsonage where I lived in Texas. He sees this package, and it was multiple boxes because pretty much every part was in a different box. He sees the name, recognizes the name, was going to have the secretary contact, the church secretary, call me and let me know my package was in Texas. And about that time I realized what had happened and called the secretary. And of course, as soon as she answers, "Hey, I've been meaning to call you. I have a package for you." Well, as it turned out, we were planning on going to Texas this summer for vacation to see family. So my daughter went by the church and picked up all my boxes, and I brought them home with me this past Sunday when we came back to North Carolina. So again, that was not the seller's fault, it was my fault. And when I was first trying to figure out, okay, what happened to my package, because it was supposed to come within a couple of 3 days, I started looking online for customer service. Now, again, this company, let me look at the name again, TCT-MOTORPARTS. The only internet presence I could find was through Amazon. I thought, man, there's another one has similar prices that actually has a website and customer service you could call direct. So I had to go through Amazon to talk to customer service, trying to figure out what happened. And I couldn't call them direct or email them direct, but they did respond promptly to my questions. And of course, I discovered again it was my fault. They shipped it to the address that I provided to Amazon. So it wasn't Amazon's fault. It wasn't the aftermarket company. It was my fault. So just keep in mind when you move, make sure not only you change your billing address, but change your shipping address. So overall, I'm happy with the product. The paint looks really good. The plastic seems plenty durable. Now, I have said often that I am mechanically challenged. I'm also technologically challenged. Now, the pad was not attached. I had to drill 3 holes for the backrest pad, and there were some markings here to show where to drill the holes. My drill bit was just about the size of the bolt. I didn't really have any trouble drilling the holes. It was a pretty tight fit there just because of the size of my drill bit. And so when I first go to try, and the bolts are attached to the pad. So when I first went to try to push the bolts through the holes, I let the backrest slip, scratched the lid on the tour pack. I thought, oh wait, that's just about my luck. I buy something brand new and I scratch it. But fortunately for me, the backrest pad comes way over where I scratched it. It was a faint scratch anyway. It wasn't a deep scratch, but did scratch the clear coat. But it's covered up, so the damage I did doesn't show. Of course, obviously, I'm going to keep my stock seat because running around in town, I may want to take the trunk off and run around with the stock seat. The stock seat is perfectly good for around town. I don't know what it'd be like for a long ride. I mean, I've ridden a couple hours, eating lunch with the Harley owners group or the Indian riders group, and then rode another couple hours back home. So I haven't done a 600, 700, 800 mile day yet on this seat. But like I said, I'm gonna go ahead and get the touring seat. But I can give 2 radically different looks, and it's, you know, typical Harley style, quick release. You push that in, pull the lever back, and the trunk comes out right off. I weighed the trunk so I could, if I need to readjust my suspension, which I'm glad with the 24 model, they added an extra inch of travel. You can, with a spanner wrench, adjust preload on this side, and then there's a knob on the other side to better fine tune the preload. I did weigh the trunk. The trunk's about 35 pounds. 30, wait a minute, let me think. I'm trying to remember now. I guess it's about 30 pounds, so it's not very heavy. My Indian trunk was about 70 pounds, but it had rear speakers, it had lights, it had remote locking trunk, so it was a lot heavier. I can tell you it was a lot heavier, and I'd already fine-tuned the suspension some on it. So overall, I'm happy with the tour pack. I may go back later and buy a chopped one for running around town, or I may just put a backrest and a luggage rack for running around town and just put the trunk on when I'm traveling. But overall, I'm happy with the motorcycle. My Indian was a great bike too. I've had several Indians and a long list of Harley Davidsons. But I'm very happy with my purchase. I'm happy with my windshield, other than, you can watch, I did a review video on the windshield. There is a section where you get some distortion along in here, but fortunately I looked over that. I wasn't happy with the distortion, but the windshield's not perfect. But overall, I'm happy with my windshield, I'm happy with my trunk. When I get that touring seat on there to fill in some of those gaps, I think it'll look even better. So I want to know, what have you added to your motorcycle? Leave it in the comments down below. What was the first thing you added? Do you primarily go for function or fashion? As you can tell, I'm starting out with function. Windshield, tour pack, I'm going to do the seat. The next thing after that will probably be the exhaust. And then there are plenty of other things I want to eventually add. But do you primarily go for function or fashion? It may partly depend on our age and how many miles we ride. If you're just, doing little day rides, a couple hundred miles, function's not as important. But if you're going to do some 800-mile days, function is very important over fashion, because you don't want to still be 300 or 400 miles from home and be uncomfortable. So I love to, ride around in town. I love to crush major miles too. So for me, at my age, I'm going for function over fashion. But again, leave comments down below on what you've added and which is more important to you. And remember, if you like to ride as much as you can, because one day we're all going to be too old to ride.